eternal rock of ages.
He is a quickening spirit.
He moves around the universe.
Ooh, in him alone everything consists.
He moves around the universe.
In his might and power he attends to all of his creation in the same split moment.
He moves around the universe.
Ooh, yeah.
He is a quickening spirit. He's a quickening spirit. He's a quickening spirit. He moves around the universe. He's a quickening spirit.
He's the Most High God. He's the one we praise. He's the one that moves around the universe. He's the Most High God. He's the one we praise. He's the one that moves around the universe. I say it all about. Is that man we're talking about? And now he moves around the universe. I say it all about. Is that man we're talking about? And now he moves around the universe. The first Adam was a living soul, but now he moves around the universe. I said the first Adam was a living soul, but now he moves around the universe. He's the omnipotent, he's the omnipresent, he's the omniscient, yeah. He moves around throughout the universe, and now he moves around the universe. In 1918, he made his entry. He manifested in flesh in Africa, West Africa, in Nigeria, in Cross River, in Biase, in Biakpan, in Menja. Of this eternal rock of ages, the soul spiritual head. Edomite rejoice, the yoke has been broken. Africa rejoice, your father has come. Brother who rejoice, Columba is here. I say, Edomite rejoice, now is your time. Your father has come, as a brotherhood rejoice. And he says to the whole world, before Abraham I was. Some people say they saw him in Mount Olive. Some people say they saw him in Mount Sinai. Some people say they saw him in Mount Zion. Quickening, spirit. He moves around the universe. He's a quickening spirit.
The sin and unseen, he sees them all. Whenever he speaks, a spirit obeys. It's a quickening spirit, the Holy Spirit personified in all the mass, the omnipresent, the last of man.
He's a quickening spirit. He's a quickening spirit. He moves around the universe. He's a quickening spirit.
Here comes the fulfillment of the Holy Scripture, saying Hebrews chapter 8, verse 11. How's it that a time shall come when no man will teach his brethren? It's better to know the Lord from the least to the greatest. As a quickening spirit, he moves around the globe, he moves around the world, he moves around the universe.
He's a quickening spirit. He's a quickening spirit. He moves around the universe. He's a quickening
not waste your time. Don't say you're a pagan, for he who has no knowledge of his creator is lost. My brother, man, my sister, stand firm in Olumba, for he who walks upon the sea is rolling with men. I will blow my trumpet, I will strike that timbrel, and tell the whole world that Emmanuel is here. He is the colors of rainbow, he feeds the sparrow, with him no sorrow. He is the same today, tomorrow.
He's a quickening spirit. He's a quickening spirit. He moves around the universe. He's a quickening spirit.
Do you know the Lion of tribe of Judah has been in our midst? The Ancient of Days, the sole provider of the universe, the only being to lead while others follow. He's a quickening spirit.
I told you before, even in the beginning of the hour, when he moved upon the face of the waters, he made the night and day, he made the universe. All spirit tremble, the trembles on his command. He has made the earth his physical abode, but he still controls all of those planets today. The plants and animal kingdom, angels, the living and the dead, confirms that he moves around.
He's a quickening spirit. He's a quickening spirit. He moves around the universe. He's a quickening spirit.
I have searched all over the world. There is no one like you. In the ages, even in the armies, even in the witchcraft world. Baba, you rule over them all. You rule over the universe. Because you are the quickening spirit. You are the quickening.
A very good evening to you out there. Thank you so very much for staying tuned to the program, your most educative program on Star Cross Television, the Regnum Legal Viewpoint. Today is going to be very interesting, very educative. You are going to learn a whole lot. Remember that this program is a program that gives you fair knowledge on legal matters. I am Irene Ulaito. Let's take a short break. When we come back, you get to meet my guest and also get to hear the topic of discussion today. Do not go to anywhere. Stay with us.
Shishi Olumba, no,
The language of a new world is the language that brings edification unto one another, encourages the brotherhood of man, and glorifies God. It is the language of love and peace.
You move around the universe. You are the quickening spirit.
He's a quickening spirit. He's a quickening spirit. of kings. He's the head of all lords. He knows our yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He's God of all the saints. In Him is righteousness and love personified. The light of the world is massive, is enormous. He is Lord, He is everywhere. He's a conqueror, mighty God, everlasting Father, the ocean of mercy, true spirit within man, giver of life and salvation. He's a quickening spirit, He's a quickening spirit, He moves around the earth.
Welcome back, beloved viewer. Thank you so much for staying tuned to the program Regnum Legal Viewpoint. So today on the program we'll be talking on a very important topic, something that some part of the world, some part of society accepted, but some part of the world says it's a taboo, it's a no thing. So today we'll be talking on a very important issue, and this topic is I don't want to keep you in the suspense. So the topic is simple: same-sex marriage and the law. Same-sex marriage. So let's get to see our guests here, meet with them. Here we have in the studio Christ Ambassador Dr. Ukam. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
We have here as well Barrister Kenneth Itoro Abasi. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
And a regular face here, you always see him, is none other than Christ Ambassador Justice Ayako. You're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. So today we are going to be talking on this very crucial topic, very important topic that I know that some people out there in the world, if they tune in to watch us, they will start condemning what we are going to be talking about. But notwithstanding, we are going to talk about it and also give our own view and what the Father stands about it. The Father stands on it. So let us move on to today's discussion: same-sex marriage and the law. Let's get to understand first the meaning of same-sex marriage. Let's start with you, Christ Ambassador Ukam.
Yeah, thank you, and nice being here today. Well, the topic is about same-sex marriage and the law. And just as it goes, same-sex marriage is marriage that is coming in together of two persons of the same sex for the purpose of being together in marriage.
Okay.
So what that means is that same-sex marriage is when people of the same sex come together to form a union.
Okay.
Then it is same-sex marriage. Simply.
Okay. That's simple. That's
Yes.
it. That's
Yes.
it. So if I get married to a female like me,
Yes.
that's same sex.
Same sex.
If you
yes.
get married to a male like you,
Yes.
same sex. So
Yes.
that is a brief understanding,
Yes.
explanation to a layman. You will understand what same sex is. So let's move on. Let's go about the historical background of this homosexuality and lesbianism. Let's have you, Barrister Itoro.
Yes, I think we have not done justice to what same-sex marriage. Yes,
Okay.
we've not. Yes,
Okay,
it's not exhaustive.
Let's get your own view.
Same-sex marriage, apart from a man marrying a fellow man,
Okay.
or a woman marrying a fellow woman, even under the Marriage Act, there is what we call a prohibited decree of consanguinity and affinity. Any marriage that comes under that prohibited decree is equally same-sex marriage and is void. Void in the sense that Okay, for instance, if you want to go back to even in the kingdom, if I am right, then we can continue. I am not a divine vanguard. Then the father appointed a pew called the divine vanguards and said, no member of the divine vanguard should marry intra. Am I right? Am I correct?
Yeah.
If you have a divine vanguard, you don't marry another divine vanguard.
For the ambassadors.
For the ambassadors.
Yeah.
Good. Now that comes under a prohibited decree of consanguinity and affinity. That is, when we talk about consanguinity, we are talking about same ancestry, we are talking about same spirit of kinship. So once, for instance, first cousins, if a first cousin is marrying a first cousin, it comes within the prohibited decree of consanguinity and affinity, and that on its own equally falls under same-sex marriage.
Well, to add to what he's saying, I think Section 7 of the Same-Sex Prohibited Act of 2014 helped us in the definition. That section defines same-sex marriage as coming together of persons of the same sex with the purpose of living together as husband and wife, or for the purpose of same-sex relationship. Coming together of people of the same sex for the purpose of living together as husband and wife, or for same-sex relationship. That is the legal definition of same-sex marriage as offered by Section 7 of the Same-Sex Prohibition Act of 2014, Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Do you have another input to the definition as well before we go to the next question?
Well, they've all expounded on it so much that I will simply look at it from what the Black Law Dictionary profiles marriage to start with. They are saying this from the legal point of view of the Nigerian jurisprudence. The acts they have referred to prohibits same-sex marriage. But to come to think of it, what is marriage before you even talk about same-sex? Marriage, according to the Black Law Dictionary 8th edition, clearly defines it as a legal union of couple as spouses coming together. That is a legal union of couples as spouses. So they live together as husband and wife. Now when you reduce it from marriage to having it as same sex, the same sex is about the gender. If a man and a man are living together like spouses, it amounts to same-sex marriage. So for Nigeria, it's highly prohibited. That is where they are looking at it from. But generally, same-sex marriage is about two same genders living together as husband and wife, even though they are man and man, two male or two females.
Let us look at Leviticus 18:22, please. Let's read that. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 22.
All right.
And then when you finish there, you read Leviticus chapter 20, verse 13. Those two portions. But it's more than that, but let's just look at those two broad portions. 18:22, Leviticus.
Is it still in the definition of the same-sex?
Yes. I want to see what the Bible is saying, because all these things stems from the Bible. Let's see what the Bible is saying. I think Justice Awehakwa is right. The Christ Ambassador is right, but let's look at what the Bible is saying.
Leviticus chapter what?
18 verse 22.
18 verse 22. It says, "Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is abomination."
Then look at 20:13.
13 and 13.
Verse 13, Leviticus.
All right. Verse 13 says, "If a man also lie with mankind as he lieth with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them."
It's okay. Then finally, let's look at Romans 1:26-27.
Romans
chapter 1. Verse 26-27.
All right. Let us quickly go to Romans chapter 1, verse 20 what?
26-27.
All right. It says, "For this curse, God gave them up unto vile affections. For even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one together toward another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet."
You can see in those three portions of the Bible, you find out that the Bible had already prescribed right from the beginning.
Okay.
Anything that was same-sex, two people of a kind, like it's being stated in the Bible, coming together for the purpose of procreation, because the main reason why God created, if you go to Mark's Gospel, chapter 6, verse, I think 8 to 10, it says that for this reason, Christ was saying he created them male and female. So, like Justice Ayako had already said, marriage, even when it was the legal definition that was given by Hyde and Hyde, by Lord Green in Hyde and Hyde, he said the voluntary union of a man and a woman, the voluntary union of a man and a woman for life, to the exclusion of all others, just like Justice Ayako had defined. And so that is the working definition of what marriage should be between a man and a woman. In all these cases, there is no way it was said between a man and a man, or between a woman and a woman. All these definitions speak of the positive and the negative, or the male and the female gender, and never the opposite.
Okay, very interesting. That is an eye-opener, which gives a follow-up question. So that means that this same-sex marriage was practiced long before now. For the Bible to be able to talk about it, to even say against it, it means it was practiced then. So let's get to hear a historical background of the same-sex marriage. Let's have you, Justice Ayako, tell us that.
Before we even delve into the topic, same-sex marriage, what are the attitudinal behavior or the characteristics?
We'll go to that.
Yes. Now, same-sex marriage did not just start from the blues. We have lesbianism and homosexuality. I think that gives birth to same-sex marriage. The act or the practice of homosexuality was traceable to 1639.
Okay.
The year 1639, where people come together to practice homosexuality. That of lesbianism is also traceable to the ancient Greek. So these are a few of the history. From there, people started indulging in the homosexual and lesbianism, which gives birth to the people involved going into marriage.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
To my mind, if we want to look at the same-sex marriage or the homosexuality, the history, I think it dates back to, if you look at Genesis chapter 19, you will find out that when God was going to go to Sodom and Gomorrah, something led God there. And when God get there, those angels that were supposed to go to Lot's house were blocked by some men who wanted to have sex with them as men. You understand? If you go to Genesis chapter 19, you read from verse 1 to 11, you will see they wanted to have sex with them as men. And then Lot even offered his children, the daughters, and said, okay, take these my daughters who are women, do to them as you please. And they said, no, it is this men that we want. To my mind, I think that is the Genesis, the beginning, yes, the origin of same-sex relationship, whether it be of marriage or it be of just a sort of fornication. And it was at that point that God's anger rekindled, and he now held Lot into the house and said, I'm going to burn down the city. So that was why Sodom and Gomorrah came out to the limelight. That was when they came out to the limelight, that God visited them with fire and brimstone as a result of same-sex relationship.
Okay.
Yes.
You have something to add
Yes,
to
to add. Well, my learned friends have really done justice to that question. But I think we need to separate between same-sex marriage and same-sex relationship. What I mean by that is that it is not marriage when there is no ceremony, formal ceremony.
Okay.
Do you understand?
It's just
Like
a
for instance,
relationship,
when two persons from the same sex indulge in sexual act, people of the same sex, let's say a man and a man indulge in sexual act, it does not automatically becomes marriage. Do you understand?
Yeah.
It is a same-sex relationship, so which should be separated from a same-sex marriage. Although we have been having some avalanche of cases of same-sex relationship over time, but that of same-sex marriage, the legality attached to same-sex marriage started recently when Netherlands in 2011 promulgated a law to recognize same-sex marriage.
Wow.
So it therefore means that before now, although there were some scintilla of cases like in Belgium in 2003, in Spain, even in Canada in 2003, Sweden, Portugal in 2010, even UK in 2011, including even South Africa.
Okay.
Do you understand? There have been chunk of cases of some marriages or supposed marriage of same sex, but it was not formal and it was not legal.
Okay.
So as such, it occurs in some section of the society. Like sometimes you hear that some persons get married and they go to priest with their dogs and that they should bless them as a human being and dog marriage. Do you understand? It happens in some reason, but it has not been formalized.
Okay.
So we are talking about a formalized system where marriage is recognized. Marriage is being recognized between people of the same sex.
Okay.
Do you understand? And it should be kept separately or treated separately with relationship of same sex.
Okay, let us move on. Because I don't know if the people that involve themselves with same-sex marriage, they behave like normal human beings. So let's get to know their characteristics. Let's get to know their attributes for the same-sex marriage, the lesbianism, the homosexuals, and the transgenders. Let's get to hear who's taking that.
Well, that is a very it's a laughable one.
Yeah.
But it's somehow sympathetic also. When you look at it closely, there have been arguments. Some people believe that it is within the right to express or to live your own private life.
Okay.
You have freedom to express or belong to any religion or do an act that you consider private to yourself. There are some persons, that is why some scholars have come to describe this same-sex issue as a mixed bag, because some persons support it, others do not support it. You have a plethora of cases of how people are supporting it. In the other way, people are also condemning it seriously. However, there have been some symptoms they exhibit. Some of them argue that it is not their making, that they find themselves being appealing or having sexual orientation with people of the same sex. Some try to trace it to natural. While we largely, even in Africa, we believe that it is unnatural. Some argue that it is a natural process, that they were made this way. So you see, there is a kind of argument in the scholarly community between the nature and nurture dichotomy. That is between nature and nurture. Which one is responsible for the threat of exhibiting some sexual relationship between people of the same sex? Is it the environment that is responsible, or is it nature? And the argument has been both. So some people believe that it is maybe as a result of the company you keep. People are being introduced to having amorous relationship with people of the same sex. Some feel that it is natural. They are just naturally made to hate,
like
to not want to have any sexual relationship with people of opposite sex, but rather they find themselves being appealing to people of the same sex. So you see, they try to exhibit some of these symptoms. Maybe you can see the other day, a colleague met me and said that he was so surprised in the office. A female student walked to her and said that he want to have want to have an affair with as a lesbian, female and female, and she was shocked. The impetus, audacity, and temerity that the small student should have to approach her for such or make such advances. So you see some of those advances coming to tell you, and sometimes some of them display what they believe in. Sometimes you see them put rings, maybe they put some bangles on their legs to show that they exhibit a particular trait, and they try to identify themselves. So there are so many ways they have been expressing it. But all we are saying is that the argument is divided. Some people believe that it is natural. Some people believe that it is the environment. But we believe that it is the handwork of the devil. It is a sin. It is sin that has led us to the point of having people expressing sexual relationship with people of the same sex.
Okay, interesting. So that leads me to another question. Do you have something to add to that, or we move on?
Yeah, what I would have loved to ask is that what the doctor has said to me is sociological.
Okay.
We want to look at the law stricto sensu. When we talk about same sex, we are looking at what we might call sodomy. Sodomy, and what that is for the man now, the homosexual, we are looking at anal coitus. That is an abnormal, unnatural. Remember the words, even in the Bible, they kept making making use of the word unnatural. It's an unnatural way of, having sex or making love, which was not approved by the biblical means, and by the natural, the morality did not approve of it that way. So these people are what we may refer to as people of unsound mind, then a non-compos mentee, because a normal person will not. And if the law wants to come into, if we look at the penal code and the criminal code, you will find out that what that person will actually be charged for when we are talking about same-sex marriage is not only the prohibition of the marriage, but the sodomy which he has committed. It is against the law for somebody to go into such practice.
We'll go into the punishments.
I'm not talking about the punishment.
Yeah, we'll go into that.
Let me also lend my voice to.
Okay.
From what Okama said, sincerely, in America, it has been an age-long practice, even far beyond 2007, 2011. Those are recent cases. They even went as far as legalizing it in 50 states in America.
Yes.
They have human rights support and all of that. But when you talk about characters, look at the biblical story of creation. God created man and woman. That is the distinction. And when you look at the woman's character and what she put up as a female side of human creature,
yes.
She has a distinct character from the male.
Yes.
Now, these things God had made, and after creation, He said they are pure and perfect.
Yes.
The man had to grow to behave like a woman. If you are into homosexuality as a man, the women also had to grow to start conducting themselves like the men when they are into lesbianism. So these are character traits that openly, overtly present them as you are a homosexual or a lesbian. So these are the character traits we commonly see displayed by them. Now, what they will always want to attribute it to, they will either say, as Dr. Okama said, is from the environment or biological factors. These are not true. These are not true. They are basically demonic driven.
Yes.
When your mindset is taken away from natural characters, as a woman, as a man, then you are possessed. That's the position.
Okay, okay. That is to say that those that involve themselves or indulge themselves in same-sex marriage,
they need deliverance. They need the anointing of
God.
God.
People of unsound mind. Yes.
Okay, all right. So let's move on. Is same-sex marriage a civil right? And is it generally accepted in society?
Well, to answer that question, when you talk about civil...
Oh, sorry. Before that, please, beloved viewer, our lines are open. If you're watching us and you have any question, clarity-seeking question, you can call us in or go to the YouTube platform and send in your comments or send in your questions. Our guests here are vested enough to give answers to your questions. Let's go ahead.
Please, I would like you to call the phone number on air so that the people who are unable to see
they are watching it on TV.
Yes, I understand.
Okay, so the phone number is 0704 480 2883. I take it again, 0704 480 2883. That's the phone number to call us in for any question or to lend your voice on this particular topic, same-sex marriage and the law. Let's go ahead, please.
Yeah, what was your question?
Okay, I was asking, is it a civil right, and is it generally accepted in society?
Well, when we talk about same-sex,
having in mind that society varies.
Yes.
Yeah.
When we talk about same-sex, we look at it in two ways: same-sex relationship and same-sex marriage.
Same-sex marriage.
Same-sex marriage. To answer your question, I'd like to tell you that the issue of same-sex had been on very serious debate. It has been the issue of morality. Morality itself does not have universal applicability, because what we consider as ethical and moral in Nigeria might not be considered as moral elsewhere. So, but here, just like we have said previously, that in some societies, you had also mentioned it, that same-sex is allowed. People, they see it as a right. In our own society, it is not a right. As such, Section 1 of the Same-Sex Prohibition Act clearly, expressly mentioned the fact that same-sex is prohibited in Nigeria, and not just prohibited, and that it is unenforceable. Anything that arises as a result, like now, a unique complaint arises as a result of having same-sex relationship, is unenforceable in Nigeria. So when it is prohibited and it's unenforceable, it therefore means that it is not a civil right recognized by the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We will not be saying the same if we go to South Africa. We will not be saying the same if we go to US. We will not be saying the same if we go to Belgium. We won't say the same if we go to UK. But for the Nigerian society, it is not a recognized right and liberty. So as such, same-sex marriage in our jurisprudence, in our legal jurisprudence, is prohibited. It's not allowed, it's unenforceable, and it's reprehensible to the Nigerian society, particularly.
That's good. You have something to add?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think it's very correct. I think it depends on the lex loci celebration is, as to use the legal balance.
Okay,
the
when
lex,
you use
the
this
lex,
legal
the
balance,
lex,
please explain
the
that.
lex loci celebration is, or the lex loci contractus,
Okay.
is what is talking about the different jurisdictions.
Sorry, let's take this call, please.
All right.
Hello, good evening, and thank you so much for calling us. Please, what is your name and where are you calling from?
Good evening, David Ayesan on the line.
Okay, Brother David Ayesan. So nice to have you here today.
Yeah, I listened to the topic same-sex marriage. And our guest, trying to, explain to us the issue, the topic. I want to look at it from the standpoint of view. Like you were saying that in some planets accepted in Africa, in some other planets, accepted.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is this. You think that we looking at from the standpoint of view of where one comes from, on a particular geographical region that comes from, that is why it's being introduced into this society. Then why not we look at it from the point of view whereby God himself has given to us? What is God's command? What is God's instruction concerning marriage? Did God ever show that man should marry man or woman marry woman? For the point which God instructed man, he never advised the forces of darkness are really, they cause the world, trying to take over the world. And that's why you see so many teachings, so many persons able to support this attitude or this practice of same-sex marriage. So I'm looking at it from the point of view whereby God protects man. Because if we follow the injustice of God, I don't think humanity applies to think of even same-sex marriage. Because and that is what is killing the world today. So in conclusion, I want to ask our guests, what do you think is actually the reason why some clients, try to adopt this practice of same-sex marriage? Is it because of their culture? Is it because of the influences there? Because from the beginning it wasn't so. I don't think the question is for them.
Yeah.
I just want to get answer out there. Now, what actually drives man to this idiosyncrasy, which has developed man and trying to ensure the entire human race? What is the cause? What is the foundation? I think so. Something like that from the beginning. Is it the problem like a short man to approach such practice? So let me know what you have that would give room for them to answer the question on how to call it.
Okay.
So this is my contribution is well represented.
Yeah, it is. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Brother David. Thank you. All right.
Well, thank you,
Okay.
Brother David
Yes,
Yesa,
yeah.
for that wonderful contribution. Actually, if you listen to the definition of marriage as provided here previously by my learned friend, that is in height versus height. Lord Pezans, as at that time, defined marriage as a voluntary union between one man and one woman to the exclusion of all others. So as such, we have over time noticed a jurisprudential somersault, where the same persons who had prohibited even marriages, some degree of marriages like polygamy and bigamy. Polygamous marriages are very popular for us here in Africa, marriage between a man and his wives, and bigamy, having other relationship when you are in marriage. So a society like the UK, for instance, where polygamy and bigamy was even prescribed at the time, how come, at what point we just left, we that were practicing monogamous marriage, saying that marriage is a voluntary union between one man and one wife, and to the exclusion of all others? How come we have now somersaulted to a point where we find ourselves, where marriage no longer means voluntary union of one man and one woman, to the point we are now to an extent of even recognizing marriages that are supposed to be of the same sex? I'm talking about in other jurisdictions, for instance, like his observation is very correct, because, and I think my learned friend Justice Ayako had dealt into it. It has to do with some demonic influences in the world. There is a paradigm shift between the practice of what God said we should do and what we are now noticing. And that is why it is a call for concern and a call to re-embrace back the original form that God designed for man. To me as a person, I feel same-sex or same-sex relationship or same-sex marriage is a threat to the collective existence of humanity. I think that the human species might go extinct if we continue to allow same-sex marriage. Okay, what happens when all of us decide that it is not man and woman, woman and man? How then can we reproduce? So it is unimaginable for us to allow this, because I think that it is the devil's design to shift us away from what God purposed in our life. And that is why some people who are conversing for this are hinting their arguments on the fact that it is fundamental right on them. So that you have the right to your private life, you have the right to associate, you have the right to marry anybody of your choice. Some persons have even extended it to even marrying animals, saying that they can no longer tolerate human beings again. They are better married to their dogs. So if all of us marry to dogs, or if all of us marry people of the same sex, what will happen to the human?
What will happen to procreation?
Yes, what will happen? Because that's why I'm saying that if we continue, then human beings will become an endangered species. That is my thinking.
Okay.
Let me also, like, in a very concise response to David Eyesa's question. It's almost the same question you've earlier asked.
Yeah.
Why should they demand that is of their right? Civilization has thrown us into this chaotic situation we find ourselves.
Would you call that civilization?
Yes, for the Western world. I mean, for the Western world. Those that, like in America, it's a society where they feel that your right to act, to your right of expression, they consider it as fundamental human right.
Okay.
Because these people are human beings and they have every reason to coexist with others, whatever their practice may look like. Now, I'm not here to say it's the right thing. The law, as the topic had offered us to also explore in course of this discussion, had given us reason to talk about same-sex marriage. And the law is there, or the laws are there, depending on the countries. In America, to a large extent, they call it a nation of liberty. I mean, whatever you think you want to do, in as much as it doesn't affect the other person's rights, you know, you should go ahead. But we are saying that that is not totally correct. It's not from a legal point of view. Okay. Nigeria in 2007, during President Olusegun Obasanjo's government, he made this move to introduce this marriage, same-sex marriage act as the bill. He sponsored this bill in the National Assembly, and it did not have any headway. Because why? There were a lot of oppositions from the Western world, from international organizations. They said no, this will infringe on the fundamental human rights of the people in this act. What are they talking about? The same-sex marriage act simply provides for, prohibits, even when you have relationship, you go into clubs where there are gays and all of that. It goes beyond just having marriage of same-sex going into marriage. So now there was this opposition from the Western world, you won't believe it, and they kept this law pending till Jonathan came into, President Jonathan became the president of this country.
Okay.
From 2013 up to 2014, we had this law in force. So what we are saying in essence is that civilization has blinded our sense of reasoning, especially for those that are in the Western world. In fact, in the United States of America, they conducted research. Immediately this law was brought into force, they discovered that 98% of Nigerians were against same-sex practice or same-sex relationship, not even the same-sex marriage. So 98% of the Nigerian population were in support of that bill that was sponsored by Jonathan, President Jonathan, and it became a law in 2014. So what we are saying is that Nigerians, or in Nigeria, the law does not permit whether you are going to club where it's restricted for gays, whether you are celebrating marriage as gay, or whether you are into any form of association. The law says you are prohibited from it. Now, the issue of do they have the right to even relate together as an association? Do they have the right of expression? I mean, when your right of expression influences or infringes on another person's right of privacy as such, it becomes a problem. Your right stops there. Some of them even lure, as one doctor has earlier said, a young lady who is a student approaching her lecturer to engage in lesbianism. I mean, it's unthinkable. If the lecturer does not have a strong will, she would have been lured into that act. And it's so dangerous because once you engage in it, it's difficult to come out of it.
Wow.
Well, to my mind, before that question becomes obsolete, to my mind, I think to add to what Dr. Okam and Christ Ambassador Justice have said, I think that this whole thing of same-sex marriage and the law, if you look at the topic is all-embracing. There is the canon law. That is the first law. I am still looking at that canon law, which is the law of God in the Bible. That is the one that cuts across all Greek, Jew or Greek, whatever kind of person in the world. You are under the law of the Bible. And now, same-sex marriage is simplicity, is a disobedience to the law that God gave to man at the point of creation. That is what same-sex marriage or same-sex relationship, that is what it talks about. So it is a clear-cut war by man against the laws that were given to him by God. Don't forget what happened to Adam and Eve at the Garden of Eden. You understand? It's a replication of what happened at the Garden of Eden, that, look, I couldn't obey what God said. I have to create my own law. Don't forget what happened to the children of Israel at the point that Moses got the law. By the time they came, they had made a golden calf to worship. It is that, like Justice rightly said, it is that demonic part of man not to obey the law of God. So David Yesa is very correct about his question, about his views. When we look about same-sex relationship and same-sex marriage, it should not be jurisdictional. It shouldn't be jurisdictional. It shouldn't be what is happening in Nigeria, what is happening in the United States. What it should be. It should be what is, whether you are a Muslim or whether you are a Christian. What did God say? Because if you look at that Leviticus chapter 17, these were the rules that God gave to man. Even what Dr. Okam mentioned about man marrying a dog. He said if they see such a person, they should stone him to death. They should burn him. That is what the Lord said. But we encourage our viewers to go to Leviticus chapter 18 and read what God talked about this same-sex and relationship with animals. Because it's a long list of what God, even the prohibited degree of consanguinity that I was talking about. He said, don't. Even if you look at Genesis chapter 9, verse 20 to 27, just for Ham to see the nakedness of his father, the father cursed him. You understand? He get to that point. You understand? Yeah. So it is a deliberate decision by man not to obey, already instituted and called perfect. It's a disequilibrium to the system of God. And so all we want to sit here and say is that same-sex marriage should be discouraged by every ramification, because if we go to the penal code for the Muslim, penal code for the Muslims, I think section 482 or 284 of that penal code clearly talks against same-sex marriage. If you come to the criminal code, section 214, 215 and 217 clearly talks against. You understand? Even in our secular law, you go to the canon law, it is against. So from which part of, from which section will you even bring it in? There is no place for that. There is no room for argument on this.
Let us move to the next question.
It's okay, thank you.
There is what we want to chip in there. Yes. To demonstrate the position of Africans, you find out that out of the 50-something countries we have, about 30-something countries are already, they have in place laws prohibiting same-sex marriage.
Yes.
Which goes to show, you see, let me tell us here, what we are talking about same-sex here is a perfect design. When we say it is demonic, it is not just demonic, it is demonic that has been sold to some certain class of persons, of which they are using economic sanction and other threats to see how they can enforce and see how they can infiltrate the world with this practice. As I'm talking to you now, in 2013, if you see the level of pressure some international agencies, some foreign countries mounted on Nigeria, they threatened to withdraw all support, morally and otherwise, if Nigeria does not implement same-sex marriage, hinging it on the freedom and all those kind of things. But we as Nigerians, we as Africans, we believe that it is un-African. From time immemorial, it is strange even to our culture to practice same-sex marriage. So as such, considering it a civil right, what gives it a civil right? It is the legal backup. So legally, the instrument that is on ground does not recognize it as a right at all.
Yes.
So you cannot even say whether it's civil right or not because it is prohibited.
Yes.
So as such, like now, for instance, if somebody is indulging in same-sex marriage, and maybe for instance, if people have agreement, because there are so many things they use to compel people to join them in their own line of thinking and practices. Okay. Some of them, they will threaten you. If you don't do this, we will kill you. Some will say, if you don't do this, if you do this, sometimes they use a lot of money to entice them. Some they will say, okay, if you know that you are going to be a lesbian, come over to America, come over to UK. We will give you visa, we'll give you everything. Come and marry me over here. And you see a lot of people, they are so incited by what they are being offered. So this is the position. It's a deplorable situation that we'll find ourselves. I call it a paradigm shift, where people are derailing, are living the natural way God has created for man. And that is itself is an act of gross disobedience. And sometimes if we are not careful that this pattern remain unabated, then we'll fear what will happen, like what our learned friend has mentioned about what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. So you see that the anger of God on Sodom and Gomorrah is because of the disobedience to an extent that they were practicing a amorous relationship of people of the same sex, which is considered abominable even by the scripture.
Okay, let's take this call.
Okay.
Hello, peace of the Father. Thank you so much for calling. Please, what is your name and where are you calling from?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Gladys.
Okay.
Calling from the US.
Okay, Mama Gladys. Thank you so much for calling us today. Let's hear your own opinion on this particular topic.
Thank you very much. I want to say a very special thank you to the guest speakers. They've done very well treating this very topic of today. And of you, the presenter too. Thank you very much for always being there for us. I want to tell us that same-sex marriage is demonic. It is satanic. So people here in the Western world, those who are involved in it, a lot of them are coming out of it.
Wow.
Because we have a group of persons, those who have denounced the same practice. They come out and then get back to the normal way of life. But others find it very difficult to get back to the normal way of life. Even in our church, the same-sex marriage, people are now conducting marriages with people of the same sex. Meanwhile, God created us man and woman. They make mistake in the first place. Then we should think of what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. Where all sorts of practices took place and what God did to them. That's exactly what some people are doing now. Even some getting to get married to their dogs or to their pets. I think it's ungodly and should not be encouraged. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Gladys Oyebo. Father bless you for calling us.
Thank you very much.
All
Have
right.
a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me
Okay,
just
let's-
briefly.
Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue.
Okay.
Stay with us, beloved viewer, because you do not want to miss this wonderful and educative topic. Stay with us.
God of our fathers, God of our ages, mountain spirits and angels shall declare you wonderful, powerful, everlasting rock of ages. I am that I am, that behind this angel. You move around the universe, you are the quickening spirit.
He's a quickening spirit. He's a quickening spirit. He moves around the universe. He's a quickening spirit. The beginning and the end, the beginning and the end, the first and the last, the first and the last hope of man. He that says yes, and no one can say no. Papa, rule your world. His great name walks the lightning, at once is by your side. Great patience of days, eternal rock of ages. He's a quickening spirit. He's a quickening spirit. He moves around the universe. He's a quickening spirit.
The Olumba stands at the beginning and order the end. He stands at the end and order the beginning. When I was singing in the street of Calabar, they were asking me what is happening, what am I celebrating? And I say to them, that yoke has been broken, that yoke has been broken from his sustenance. Esau and Jacob, they are now dining here in Africa. Celebrate, celebrate. Let's rejoice, let's rejoice, let's rejoice, let's rejoice. Every December 1918, a divine being was born in Vietnam City. On his shoulder rests the rulership of the entire universe. His name is Olumba, Olumba Obu. He's a quickening spirit. He's a quickening spirit. He moves around the universe. He's a quickening spirit. The supreme quickening spirit, Olumba Obu. The most wonderful name on earth. A wonderful man indeed. He who was born, and at the sight of him, the blind woman received her sight. The dead hunter was brought back to life. Even the bed that defecated on him, just by spoken word that it will come back and apologize. To me, my brethren, the bed came back and apologized. Spirit is a quickening spirit. Spirit is a quickening spirit.
He's the divine Regnum of our time. He's on a rock of ages. Who shall not bow down and worship him? Who is like unto him? The uncreated creator, sustainer, controller, and leader of the infinite universe. Is the supreme deity to whom all principalities and powers and rulers of one and planet owe absolute allegiance. Yes, I say, is the Lion of the tribe of Judah, and besides him there is no other God. Is a quickening spirit, he is in charge. In whom all things, seen and unseen, live, move, and have their beings. Our Lord is praises for making us to witness the physical formation of the heavenly government, the UUTC, which has brought into
thank you so much for joining us on the program Regnum Legal Viewpoint. Today's topic is same-sex marriage and the law. So before we went on a short break, we had a lot of questions here, which the lawyers here in the house, did justice to it. But we're going to go furthermore. Let's have you, CA Justice, to add to that. You wanted to say something before we went on a short break.
Yes, my colleagues had dwelled so much on same-sex marriage, homosexuality, that is talking about same-sex relationship and all of that. The dangerous trend now is the transgender thing.
Yeah.
Men are going into the theater to transform themselves to women, transplanting body parts of women and turning out to become women. It's quite out of this world. It's unheard of. Sincerely, when you see a man dressed in the female attires with all the features of a woman, I mean, it's unthinkable. I just want to also add it up that is how the trend had gone to degenerating and bringing almost cost to humanity, because it's like dehumanizing situation whereby a man or a woman will want to recreate him or herself. That is the point I want to make here. It's just part of this topic.
Okay,
Yes.
sorry. Would you say that the reason why a lot of young people, because I see it very common among the youth, a lot of young people tend to toe into same-sex marriage and relationship, is because maybe the opposite sex, maybe let me say for an instance, two young people, having a relationship with the opposite sex, and the man tends to break the woman's heart, and the woman cannot take it, and another woman said, come on, why do you give yourself to all this? Why don't you to the same sex relationship and marriage as well, so that you can get void of get rid of heartbreaks and the rest. Even the female, the male as well would say, come on man, why are you disturbing yourself with a woman? Come on, let's do this thing together, and you will not have heartbreak. Would you say that that is part of the reason why you have increase in same-sex relationship and marriage?
Can I shock you? I want to shock you that there is no relationship in the world without problems. This breakup, there are so many persons who are practicing this same-sex relationship. They have come to complain of breakups. To me, I think that the major reason why you see there is a paradigm shift to that angle. There was a circulation that what happened in Lagos, a particular place in Lagos. Police invaded the place and discovered that all the people standing there disguised as women, they did makeups with hair and everything. They were just male standing there. So, and police, they got to a point where some persons, because it was a mixed feeling, some people were saying it's an assault, but the police undressed them publicly and discovered that even what they packed in their breast, there was no breast. They undressed everything, scattered everything, removed their head. You see that it was real Okuru that was standing in that place. So now, why is it that there is an upsurge in our society towards it? I am thinking that the increase is as a result of, the thing is demonic. And because it is demonic, there are so many incentives that the demonic world had used to entice our young people. Not only our young people, like I'll tell you that there are some politicians who practice, they believe that they excel politically.
Wow.
By having relationship with people of the same sex. So there are some politicians who you see, they have these people of the same sex servicing them as a way of making it politically, and they can pay you so much for it. There are some international agencies and donors or persons who support people who practice same sex. So because of the enticement, the pecuniary benefit attached, people are now looking at it as the in thing, because now people are now thinking that maybe the fastest way to make money now in Nigeria or some other place is to practice lesbianism or homosexualism, and it is to so much of them are making a lot of fortune from it, but we are saying that it is wrong.
Okay, I want to
Let me answer that your question again. Sorry, Sister Irene.
We're running out of time.
Yes, well, just quickly.
Okay.
Most of those that complain of heartbreaks, especially for the women, if you look very well, it's because of one reason.
What is the reason?
Now, it's not just about heartbreak. Some their quest for sexual satisfaction, I must say it, is so high. It's so high that the male boyfriends or husbands cannot even satisfy them.
Wow.
They go out of their way. Even the married women, it will shock you, are into this lesbianism. So if they have this sexual urge that is so high, you see that common practice prevailing in our society. It's one aspect of this topic that we must also consider.
So there's a post I saw on social media, and I want us to talk about it. It was like a question: Isn't it hypocritical when you say you are against same-sex marriage, but in your marital home, as a man married to a woman, you involve in anal intercourse? Isn't it hypocritical? That is what was asked on social media. So when I saw it, I said, okay, I'm going to ask, would you say it is hypocritical? You're against same-sex marriage, like man to man, but at home with your wife, you involve within anal intercourse?
Yes, for instance, my learned friend here, Pastor Kenneth, had dwelled on that. There are some marriages, or there are some acts that are prohibited. Prohibited in the sense that you are legally married as opposite sex. It's not enough for you to practice such. For instance, like I believe that it is hypocritical because it is an unnatural way, ungodly way. That is not how God designs it.
So you
and
say
so many
it's
persons,
hypocritical.
yes,
Okay.
because you cannot be condemning same-sex marriage and you go off the natural way God has created for sex. So it was not designed that way. So, and as such, there are a lot of health complications arising from that. So because that is not the way God created it, or that was not the way nature made it, people have gone, and again it's demonic itself. It is demonic when you begin to feel that is the way you can get sexual excitement, only when you go the unnatural way. We are saying that it's not just hypocritical, it's not just reprehensible, it's not just immoral, it is not just barbaric, it is ungodly.
It is ungodly. All right, let's move on to the next question. So, do you agree with the fact that same-sex prohibits a Prohibition Act of 2013? Is that correct? 2014 has not successfully stopped the practice of homosexuality and lesbianism.
Yeah. There is a law, first and foremost, and that is the law, the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act. But don't forget about there is what we call statistics. When you want to say whether it has actually stopped, we want to look at the statistics.
Okay.
Now, if there be dearth of cases, people being taken to court, people being charged, there are two things that are responsible. First is underreporting. The second is that there is no such practice. I think that the truth about it here is underreporting. Okay. The issue of same-sex marriage in Nigeria is underreported. It is largely underreported because of the fact that since the society, the larger chunk of the society is against it, the people who are even practicing are just like armed robbers who hide to go and steal in the night and come back. You understand me?
But we have top celebrities, we have top people, you understand, who do it openly. What has the law done about it?
I was coming.
In Nigeria.
I was coming. See, the few people that were said that championed the cause of same-sex marriage, homosexuality, lesbianism, but in a marriage form, those few persons, they sought asylum in countries outside this country and left. Exactly. Because the cultural situation, our biblical situation, our laws, everything, there is no way they could have had a safe haven in this country. So most of them sought asylum and left, followed their demonic friends and relatives outside the shores of this country. But for the people that are in this country, the only way they can do it is to go into hiding and do it. Remember that sex normally happens in a locked door or in a locked room. So it is largely unreported. But by the time we can have maybe CCTV cameras, in places of maybe like hotels, and then people can actually see through what is happening in the rooms, I think that is when prosecution. You're
going to infringe upon people's rights of privacy.
No, the right to privacy does not include the commission of an offense. You understand? When we talk about the right of privacy, that is why a telephone conversation of a person can be tapped and using evidence against that person. That is an infringement on the right privacy of that person. So just like there is a law now, the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act of 2014, which is in place now, if a person contravenes that law, even if it was gotten in a situation where we might say agent provocateur situation, breaking in to get the evidence, it can be used and then the person can still be convicted. There is no two ways about it.
Well, to really thank you, my learned friend, to really add to that.
Okay.
You see, we are talking about a law. Despite the existence of the law, the situation had remained almost the same. However, from what my learned friend is saying is that when you look at statistics, because imagine if there was no such law, imagine what would have happened. But I want to tell us here that the Safe Sex Prohibition Act is not all serving. It's not without its own loophole. That's why we give credence to the law of Uganda prohibiting safe sex. That law went to the extent that even though you are Ugandan in another country, you will be extradited and convicted in Uganda. Wow. It is not that is not fine in our laws. And that's why you see people who are of the same, because they will go to internet, they have their group where they have their chats and all those things. Okay. They offer themselves opportunity, support, financial support, and opportunity to relocate. You understand? For you go to another country where you can practice that. In Uganda, it is prohibited as far as you are a citizen of Uganda. Even though you are in USA practicing it and it is known here, you will be extradited and you will be dealt with. There are so many loopholes in that our law. For instance, it is not clear what, like in the Ugandan law, a victim, because there are some homosexuality or lesbian issues where people compel, or like a kind of rape case, you force somebody into having that anal, that carnal knowledge. Do you understand? What is available for such a victim in our law is lacking. Like for instance, if a victim of such knows that as I'm reporting the case to the police, I will be compensated. At the end of the day, the court will compensate me for the emotional, the psychological, and the physiological traumas or issues I may have passed through as a result of that case. It will also improve the reportage. I agree with my learned friend that the case is underreported here in Nigeria, and that is not unconnected with the fact that we have a poor enforcement mechanism. Poor enforcement mechanism in the sense that what is the mindset of the law enforcement agencies towards it? How are people being encouraged or oriented? Like there should be an orientation. There should be seminars, or how are people looking into these issues? There's some of these cases happening in the suburbs. How have we gone to find out these cases? And the ones that have been reported, how is it being handled? Because if it is not handled properly, then the next person is discouraged.
Okay, let's move on because we have our time is almost running out. What are the prescribed punishments for violation of the Criminal Penal Code and Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act 2014?
I think under that law, I think that tracks 14 years imprisonment.
14 years?
14 years.
So how many persons have been convicted?
That is the issue that we have just finished discussing. The issue of underreporting, the issue of mismanagement and underreporting. That's what we have. In fact, that's why I said the dearth of cases, because as we are sitting down talking as lawyers, if those cases are there, people have been convicted, we will have cited those cases right now. Say in the case of Ogon and Netam, this is what the court. But then those cases are underreported and mismanaged by the people that should enforce same.
For instance, a thief is only a thief when he's being caught.
Okay.
Do you understand? And that's why sometimes they will tell you 9 days is for the thief and only one day is for the owner. That 1 day means that is when the knowledge is made public. Do you understand? There are some persons who have been hiding or shielding people dwelling in these practices, maybe by result of their degree of relationship, either in consanguinity or affinity. consanguinity, for instance, you know that this your brother related to you by blood is an homosexual. But because he is your brother, you have failed to do the needful by drawing the attention of the law enforcement agencies into looking into it as an act that is prohibited or that is outlawed in the country. So whereas people are not coming out to report these cases, how will the law take its course? The court does not operate in a vacuum. The judge will not go and be looking for case in your house. It is you who will have to approach the law enforcement agency for the law to take its course. And as such, we are saying that the change begins with you. It begins with us. When we see...
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
What about transgender? Is the law against this? And,
Yes,
and
yes.
what are the punishments meted for those who have turned themselves? I'm a female, then I turn myself to a male, and then I'm trending on social media. I am getting, I'm a celebrity because I am a transgender.
If you do that in the northern part of Nigeria, you receive the wrath of the law.
What about the
penal
southern
code.
part?
Well, the southern part is a little bit relaxed about the law.
Because I know
the-
of celebrities who
Yes.
are trending, who are making it out there, and they're male, and they are, when you see them, in fact, they look so beautiful, even more than a female. You understand? And the country, the law is not doing anything
that
about
you
it.
look beautiful as a man, you dress like a woman.
They
It's
have
not
they,
enough.
they have the breast, they have everything.
Yes, it's not enough.
It's not enough.
Until the act it is established that there is an act of sexual
Relations, natural means.
Like for instance, there are some persons who feel that they are transgender and they just use it to
make some
show
money.
or make money.
Make some
You
money.
understand? The law does not concern with you making sure or
Those
behaving like a
cosmetic-
woman or by
cosmetic,
those cosmetic fittings you put on yourself. The law is concerned at the actual, that is the actus reus of
Yes.
the act
of
itself,
natural means.
of unnatural means of making yes. Do you understand?
For our northern part of this country, what you've just described amounts to a criminal offense. The penal code prohibits it. Even the Islamic law.
It does.
If you dress as a woman whereas you are a man,
Yes.
you'll be punished for it.
Oh,
That is it.
Okay, so let's move on. Lastly, let's get to hear what is the position of BCS concerning the practice of homosexualism and lesbianism, which leads to same-sex marriage. I would want to have a take from each and every one of you. Let's start with you, Justice.
It's not acceptable. The Holy Father had maintained the teachings of a man and a woman for marriage. No same-sex marriage, no same-sex relationship. It is immoral, it's ungodly, and it's demonic. That is the position of BCS.
It is immoral, it is ungodly, and it is demonic. That is from Justice Ayakwa. Let's have you, Barrister Kenneth.
Yes, I think I ought to add to what Justice Arako has said. The Father said he came here to fulfill the law that was made by God himself, he himself being God, all three in one. They speak from the same voice, and the only means, the first and basic means of their communication to us was through the Bible. So he came here to fulfill all that was written down in that Bible, and as a result of that, the Holy Father, Brotherhood of the Cross and Star, which represents the new kingdom of God on earth, is against lesbianism, gay, bisexual, and transgender form of cosmetic or unnatural form of relationship or marriage, prohibited degree of consanguinity and affinity. The Holy Father is all against that. And that is why even when he came now and he set up the divine vanguards, he recognized that condition of affinity and said, divine vanguard, do not marry among yourself, marry somebody outside, because they are people of the same mind, people of the same accord, people of the same setting, people of the same style, and people of the same scope. So the Father is always there to enforce
All right, thank
what
you.
is
Let's get your last take before we.
Yeah, unfortunately, some countries have even gone to an extent in their laws compelling that when people of the same sex approach you in your church for such ceremony, you must, as a matter of law, accept same. But we thank the Father. We thank the Father Almighty.
Okay.
Because we believe that the Father is an advocate of the Scripture. So as such, the Father has never directed us astray. His disposition, his teachings, has everly been respecting the institution of marriage as it were, even from the Garden of Eden. If not, when during the creation, they say male and female, God created them. So as such, if it was not the proper thing and Adam needed a companion, God would have created another man and not a woman. So as such, from the creation ab initio, it was never the design of God that people of the same sex should have relationship or even plummet to the level of even getting married. That is unheard of. So we are saying that the teaching of the Father is totally against it. The Father respects the sanctity of marriage. So as such, it is the Father's teaching that man and woman should be the one to be blessed in marriage, in brotherhood of the cross and stand.
All right,
and that is what is the practice.
Yeah, thank you
and
so
all
much.
those that are involved in it should confess their sins and repent.
Okay, thank you so much, Christ Ambassador Dr. Okam. Thank you so much, Barrister Kenneth Itorobasi. Thank you so much, CA Justice Ayako. Father bless you for coming to talk to us. And to you, our beloved viewer, thank you so much. We have a lot of comments on the YouTube platform, but we cannot read it out because we are running out of time. Okay, thank you so much. I believe you've learned a lot. You are educated. Those of you that are doing it hidden, in a hidden way, hiding to do lesbianism and homosexual, may the Father forgive you, like what you said. And please come out of it. Come out of it. Please say no to lesbianism. Say no to transgender. Say no to homosexuality. And embrace the teachings of our Father. Come off it. If the world, if everybody would practice same sex, then there'll be the biblical portion that says go into the world and multiply. It will not come to pass. So please let us embrace the teachings of our Father, His Holiness Olumba Obu, and say no to same-sex marriage or same-sex relationship. I am Irene Olaito. Please continue to stay tuned to Starcross Television because this program will come your way next week, same time, same day. I love you. Do have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.